Nkechi listened with a warm heart, for she remembered how Ifedi had stood by her side when she first married Ikenna. Despite their parents' disapproval, she admired his loyalty and kindness, and she welcomed the idea of having him with them in the city. With a smile as bright as the morning sun, Nkechi embraced Ikenna's plan, knowing that family was the most precious treasure of all. Once upon a time, there lived two brothers named Ikenna and Ifedi. They were as close as two peas in a pod, always playing and laughing together under the bright African sun. Ikenna, the older brother, was a strong and determined young man. He had dreams as big as the sky and a heart full of courage. Against their parents' wishes, Ikenna fell in love with a beautiful lady from the neighboring town. Her name was Nkechi, and her smile could light up even the darkest night. Despite the disapproval of their parents, Ikenna and Nkechi married and moved to the hustling city of Enugu. In Enugu, Ikenna worked hard to build a better life for himself and his beloved wife. He opened a wholesale supermarket store in the heart of Enugu, where people from all walks of life came to buy goods. Ikenna's smiles became as famous as his store. Years passed by, and back in the village, life was not as kind to Ifedi, the younger brother. With their parents gone, Ifedi found himself alone, struggling to make ends meet. He took on whatever odd jobs he could find, working from dawn till dusk to sustain his simple life. But amidst the challenges, Ifedi found solace in the arms of his beloved Ezinne. She was the sunshine in his cloudy days. With eyes that sparkled like the stars above, their love blossomed like the flowers in the fields. And Ezinne's family welcomed Ifedi with open arms. As the seasons changed and time marched on, the bond between Ikenna and Ifedi remained unbreakable, despite the miles that separated them. Through letters and occasional visits, they shared their joys and sorrows, their triumphs and tribulations. In the city, Ikenna's business thrived, and his heart swelled with pride at the thought of his brother finding love and happiness in the village. He often spoke of Ifedi and Ezinne to Nkechi, weaving tales of their simple yet fulfilling life back home. Meanwhile, in the village, Ifedi worked tirelessly to build a future with Ezinne by his side. They dreamed of a humble home filled with laughter and love, a place where their children would play beneath the shade of mango trees. But fate, like a capricious storyteller, had other plans in store for the brothers and their loved ones. As the sun set on one chapter of their lives, a new dawn approached, carrying with it the promise of adventure and uncertainty. Little did they know that their paths would soon intertwine again, in a tale as old as time, as timeless as the bond between two brothers. For destiny, like the river that flows through the heart of their land, cannot be tamed or predicted. So, as the sun rose high in the sky, painting the world with its golden rays, Ikenna sat down with his wife Nkechi to share his thoughts. He told her about his desire for Ifedi to join them in the bustling city of Enugu, to learn the ways of business and build a bright future together. Nkechi listened with a warm heart, for she remembered how Ifedi had stood by her side when she first married Ikenna. Despite their parents' disapproval, she admired his loyalty and kindness, and she welcomed the idea of having him with them in the city. With a smile as bright as the morning sun, Nkechi embraced Ikenna's plan, knowing that family was the most precious treasure of all. Together, they made arrangements for Ifedi's journey to the city, eager to open their hearts and home to him. When Ikenna shared the news with Ifedi, his younger brother hesitated at first. Thoughts of their parents' house and the memories they shared weighed heavily on his mind. But as he gazed into Ikenna's eyes and felt the warmth of his brother's love, Ifedi's heart began to open to new possibilities. He thought about the opportunities that awaited him in the city, the chance to learn and grow alongside his brother, and his heart swelled with hope. With a nod and a smile, Ifedi agreed to embark on this new adventure, knowing that together they could conquer all challenges that came their way. But before he could set off on his journey, Ifedi had one important person to talk to. His beloved Ezinne. With a heavy heart, he shared the news of his departure, knowing that their time together would soon be interrupted by distance and change. Ezinne listened, her eyes brimming with tears, as Ifedi spoke of his dreams and aspirations. She held his hand tightly, feeling the weight of his absence already pulling at her heartstrings. But deep down, she knew that love was stronger than any distance, and their bond would withstand the test of time. Promising to wait for Ifedi's return, Ezinne pledged her love and support, knowing that their hearts would remain connected no matter where life's journey took them. And so, with a mixture of excitement and sadness, Ifedi bid farewell to the familiar sights and sounds of the village, his heart filled with hope for the future and gratitude for the love that surrounded him. As the wheels of the bus rolled along the dusty road, carrying Ifedi closer to his new life in the city, he couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation building within him. For on the horizon, amidst the towering buildings and bustling streets of Enugu, lay the promise of a new beginning, where dreams could take flight and the bonds of brotherhood would only grow stronger with each passing day. When Ifedi arrived in the city, his brother's wife, Nkechi, welcomed him with arms wide open, her smile as bright as the morning sun. She treated Ifedi with kindness and respect, just like a true sister would, and Ifedi in turn admired and respected Nkechi as his brother's wife. Ikenna wasted no time in introducing Ifedi to the ins and outs of the wholesale supermarket store. With patience and care, he shared his knowledge and experience, teaching Ifedi everything he needed to know about running a successful business. Ifedi, with his sharp mind and eager spirit, absorbed every lesson like a sponge, his determination shining through with each passing day. As weeks turned into months, the bond between the brothers and Nkechi grew stronger, their days filled with laughter and shared dreams of the bright future ahead. But little did they know that a storm was brewing on the horizon, ready to test the strength of their love and unity. One fateful day, Nkechi's cousin sister, Agnes, arrived unannounced at Ikenna's house, seeking refuge from the storms of her own life. With a heavy heart and no other place to turn, Nkechi opened her home to Agnes, despite her husband's silent disapproval. When Ikenna and Ifedi returned home from the shop that evening, they were greeted by Agnes's presence, her smile hiding the turmoil within. Though Ikenna felt unease about the unexpected guests, he remained polite, exchanging pleasantries with Agnes as best as he could. But beneath the surface, tension simmered like a pot ready to boil over. Nkechi's decision to welcome Agnes without consulting Ikenna left him feeling unsettled, and Nkechi, sensing his discomfort, felt a pang of guilt for not considering her husband's feeling. As days passed, Agnes's presence in the house began to stir up trouble like a mischievous wind. She started making advances towards Ifedi, her eyes gleaming with mischief and desire. But Ifedi, sensing danger, warned her seriously to cease her advances, or he was going to report her to the brother and her sister. Angered by Ifedi's rejection, Agnes resorted to sowing seeds of discord and jealousy in Nkechi's heart. With cunning words and twisted lies, she poisoned Nkechi's mind against Ifedi, painting him as a threat to their happiness and well-being. Nkechi, torn between loyalty to her husband and the bond of family, found herself swayed by Agnes's manipulations. Doubt crept into her heart like a shadow, clouding her judgment and fueling the flames of resentment towards Ifedi. Even after Agnes left to find her own place, her poisonous words lingered like a dark cloud over their home. She continued to visit Nkechi, whispering venomous lies into her ears and poisoning her thoughts against Ifedi. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Nkechi's mistreatment of Ifedi only grew worse, like a weed choking the flowers in a garden. She continued to send Ifedi on errands, treating him more like a servant than a member of the family. Despite Ikenna's warning against such behavior, Ikenna, feeling the strain of the growing tension in their home, pleaded with Nkechi to treat Ifedi with the respect and kindness he deserved as his brother. But Nkechi's heart remained hardened, her resentment towards Ifedi casting a dark shadow over their once happy home. One fateful day, amidst the hustle and bustle of the supermarket, a ray of light pierced through the clouds of despair. An old friend of Ifedi's, who had traveled all the way from the USA, entered the store. He smiled, warm and familiar. Their reunion was like a breath of fresh air, filling Ifedi's heart with joy and hope. They shared stories about the days gone by and the dreams they once shared beneath the African sky. After work, they met outside the supermarket, where Ifedi poured out his heart, sharing the struggles he faced at home with Nkechi's mistreatment and Agnes's poison. His friend listened with empathy, his eyes reflecting the flicker of determination and burning within. With a promise of help and support, his friend offered Ifedi a chance to escape the shadows that loomed over him, a ticket to a brighter future across the ocean in the land of opportunity. Ifedi's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that he had a lifeline to grasp onto in his darkest hour. His friend urged him to keep their plans secret until he reached his destination, where he could then reach out to Ikenna and share the good news. Ifedi, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension, agreed to his friend's wise counsel, determined to seize this chance for a better life. Before he left, Ifedi wrote a heartfelt letter to Ezinne, his beloved girlfriend, explaining his sudden departure and promising to return for her once he had found his footing in the land of dreams. With a heavy heart and hope in his eyes, Ifedi bid farewell to the familiar streets of Enugu, his brother's embrace a bittersweet reminder of the love he had left. Weeks passed, and Nkechi and Ikenna grew increasingly worried as they failed to reach Ifedi on the phone, their hearts filled with concern and fear, wondering where their beloved brother had gone without a word of farewell. Then one day, the phone rang, and on the other end was Ifedi's voice, alive with excitement and joy. He shared the news of his safe arrival in the USA, his dreams taking flight on wings of hope and possibility. Ikenna rejoiced for his brother, his heart swelling with pride at Ifedi's courage and determination. But Nkechi, her heart hardened by anger and resentment, could not find it in her to share in their joy. She simmered with anger, feeling betrayed by Ifedi's sudden departure without so much as a word of explanation. Months passed like the gentle breeze blowing through the tall grass, and Ifedi, across the vast ocean, continued to send letters and money to his brother Ikenna, his heart overflowing with love and longing for his family back home. In his letters, Ifedi urged Ikenna to send part of the money to Ezinne, his beloved girlfriend, whom he promised to marry and cherish for all eternity. He trusted Ikenna, his brother, to keep his word, to hold onto the money and save it for their future together. But fate had other plans in store as dark clouds gathered on the horizon, casting shadows over the once happy home of Ikenna and Nkechi. Nkechi, fueled by jealousy and greed, swore that her husband should never send a single dime to Ifedi's girlfriend. She painted Ezinne as an outsider, unworthy of their family's wealth and prosperity. Her words dripped with venom, poisoning Ikenna's mind against his brother's wishes. With honeyed words and false promises, Nkechi convinced Ikenna to use the money for their own desires: a new house, shiny cars, and the best education for their son. She threatened to leave him if he dared to defy her wishes. Her heart consumed by the darkness of her own making. And so, like a ship lost at sea, Ikenna fell into the trap laid by Nkechi and Agnes, squandering his brother's hard-earned money without a second thought. He lavished himself and his wife with extravagant gifts, while Ifedi toiled tirelessly, unaware of the betrayal unfolding in the distant lands of his homeland. Imagine Ifedi working day and night, juggling work and school, sending money to support his brother's business, to provide for his beloved Ezinne, and to save for his own future. And yet, his sacrifices went unnoticed, his love unappreciated by those who should have cherished it most. Meanwhile, Ezinne, with a heart full of hope and faith, waited patiently for her beloved Ifedi to return to her. She prayed each night for his safe return, dreaming of the day when they would walk hand in hand beneath the African sky, their hearts united in love and promise. But little did she know of the trials and tribulations that awaited Ifedi on the other side of the ocean, where his brother and wife squandered his hard-earned money with reckless abandon, blind to the pain and suffering they caused. 5 long years passed like grains of sand slipping through an hourglass until Ifedi finally returned to Nigeria. As his plane touched down on familiar soil, his brother Ikenna eagerly awaited him at the airport, his heart heavy with anticipation and guilt. When they arrived home, a thick tension hung in the air, like a heavy fog obscuring the path ahead. Ikenna and Nkechi struggled to maintain forced smiles, their hearts weighed down by the burden of secrets long kept hidden. That night, as darkness enveloped the world outside, Ikenna and Nkechi tossed and turned in their beds, their mind racing with thoughts of how to explain the truth to Ifedi. They knew they could no longer hide the deception that had plagued their home for far too long. The next morning, with a heavy heart and a resolve as strong as steel, Ifedi confronted his brother about the money he had entrusted to him over the past 5 years. He spoke with a firmness in his voice, demanding answers and accountability. But Ikenna and Nkechi, caught off guard by Ifedi's sudden assertiveness, stumbled over their words, Both Ikenna and his wife found themselves struggling with words, their excuses unraveling like a ball of yarn rolling down a hill. They tried to deflect and deny, but Ifedi saw through their facade, his eyes burning with righteous anger. With a sense of purpose driving him forward, Ifedi announced his intention to return to the village and marry his beloved Ezinne, the woman who had remained faithful to him through thick and thin. He would not be swayed by empty promises or hollow apologies, for his heart yearned for the truth and justice that had long been denied. And so, with determination burning bright within him, Ifedi journeyed to the village, his footsteps echoing with resolve and conviction. He sought out his girlfriend's house, finding solace in her warm embrace and the promise of love that had endured the test of time. But Ifedi's quest for justice did not end there, for he knew that the truth must be brought to light and justice must be served. He sought out their uncle, a wise and respected elder, and laid bare the betrayal that had festered within their family. Their uncle listened with a solemn nod, his eyes reflecting the pain and sorrow that weighed heavy on Ifedi's shoulders. With a promise of action, he summoned Ikenna and the elders and kinsmen to bear witness to the truth that could no longer be denied. In the presence of their ancestors and the gaze of their king, Ifedi spoke his truth, recounting the tale of betrayal and deceit that had torn their family apart. Ikenna, with shame etched upon his face, attempted to justify his actions, but the truth rang clear and resolute in the ears of all who listened. As the elders saw there was no defense for Ikenna's actions, their uncle, with a voice as solemn as the beating of drums during a village gathering, spoke of life's lessons, of trust, of the importance of family, and the need to stand together in times of trial. He reminded Ikenna of the warnings they had given him about marrying Nkechi, but his heart had been blinded by love's veil. With heavy hearts and a sense of duty, they urged Ikenna to return his brother's hard-earned money, promising peace and reconciliation if he did so. Ikenna, realizing the gravity of his actions, agreed to make amends once they returned to the city. Without delay, they embarked on their journey back to Enugu, hoping to mend the fractures that had torn their family apart. But upon arriving at Ikenna's house, they were met with a sight that struck fear into their hearts. There, on the table in the sitting room, lay a letter from Nkechi, a letter that bore news of her departure and the withdrawal of all their shared funds. The weight of her betrayal hit Ikenna like a thunderbolt, his heart racing with fear and despair. In that moment of shock and anguish, the stress and sorrow proved too much for Ikenna's fragile heart to bear. With a sharp pain piercing his chest like a dagger, he clutched at his heart, grasping for breath as the world around him faded into darkness. And so, dear friends, in the blink of an eye, Ikenna's life came to an abrupt and tragic end. A victim of his own greed and the consequences of his actions, his story serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the danger of letting greed consume the soul. Meanwhile, Ifedi, left reeling from the loss of his only brother, felt a profound sense of betrayal and heartache. But amidst the darkness, he found solace in the unwavering support of his best friend and the love of his beloved Ezinne. Together, they forged a new path forward, guided by the light of love and the strength of their bond. And so, dear friends, as the story draws to a close, let us remember the importance of honesty, trust, and the enduring power of love in overcoming life's greatest challenges. For in the end, it is love that prevails, lighting the way through even the darkest of nights, and leading us towards a future with hope, promise, and the possibility of happily ever after. The most important lesson in this story is that honesty, trust, and love are the true treasures in life, and greed and betrayal can lead to sadness and loss. But being kind and truthful to others brings happiness and peace in our hearts. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly share, comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.